In the modern world of supercars, there are few names that carry as much weight as Bugatti. These cars are not just fast machines. They are symbols of extreme engineering, luxury, and exclusivity. Only a small number of people in the world will ever own one, and even fewer will ever see one up close. Among these rare machines was a Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport owned by a Miami-based collector named Alex G. For him, this car was more than just transport. It was a dream machine, a piece of engineering art worth around $4 million. With only about 60 units ever made, it represented the peak of automotive design. The car had a massive 1,500 horsepower engine, a carbon fiber body, and technology designed for extreme speed beyond what most roads would ever allow. But everything changed in a matter of seconds. While driving in Miami, Alex experienced a sudden and unexpected crash involving a small delivery truck. It was not a high-speed race or a dramatic chase. It was a simple road mistake, the kind that could happen to anyone. Yet for a car like this, even a small impact was enough to cause massive damage. The front of the Bugatti crumpled, airbags exploded, and the once perfect machine was suddenly turned into a damaged shell. What made the situation even more serious was not just the crash itself, but what came after it. Bugatti, the manufacturer, quickly sent a specialist to inspect the vehicle. After a close examination, they declared it a total loss. This meant the car was no longer considered safe or reparable under factory standards. Insurance accepted the decision, and the car was sent to a salvage auction. For most people, this would have been the end of the story. A rare hypercar destroyed and written off. But in reality, this was only the beginning of a much bigger conflict that would soon involve not just the owner, but the entire philosophy of car ownership itself. The wrecked Bugatti sat in storage, waiting for its fate, while the world had no idea that this damaged machine would soon become the center of a global debate about control, ownership, and the right to repair one of the most advanced cars ever built. After the insurance payout, Alex made a surprising decision. Instead of walking away from the damaged car, he bought it back from the salvage auction for nearly $2 million. This was an unusual move, because most people would never invest that much money into a destroyed vehicle. However, for Alex, the car still had value. It was rare, powerful, and still carried the identity of Bugatti. But the real challenge began when he tried to repair it. When he contacted Bugatti for parts and repair options, the response shocked him. The company gave a repair estimate of around $1.7 million just for parts, with no fixed timeline and no guarantee of completion. On top of that, they offered another option: send the car back to their factory in France for a controlled rebuild. But this came with strict conditions, including returning the car untouched. Alex refused both options. This created a gap between what the owner wanted and what the manufacturer allowed. At this point, the situation became more complicated. The car was physically his, but in practice, it was locked inside Bugatti's system. No official dealer could supply parts for it. The vehicle identification number, or VIN, was blacklisted across their global network. This meant even simple components like headlights, bolts, or seals could not be ordered through normal channels. The car had become trapped between ownership and restriction. It was legally owned but practically controlled. This situation raised a deeper question that many people had never thought about before. If you buy a machine for millions of dollars, do you fully own it, or does the manufacturer still control how it can be repaired? While Alex was dealing with these restrictions, a different figure entered the story. A UK-based YouTuber and car builder named Mat Armstrong heard about the situation. Matt was known for rebuilding heavily damaged supercars and turning them back into working machines. Unlike traditional repair shops, he relied on creativity, fabrication, and problem-solving instead of factory systems. When he saw the Bugatti, he did not see an impossible problem. He saw a challenge. Soon, he traveled to Miami to inspect the car himself. What he discovered was worse than expected. The crash had caused deep structural damage, including a broken engine mount and shifted drivetrain components. Even Bugatti believed that such damage could not be safely repaired outside their factory. But Matt made a decision that would change everything. He agreed to take on the rebuild, fully aware that he was stepping into one of the most difficult automotive challenges imaginable. Once the rebuild began, the true scale of the challenge became clear. The Bugatti Chiron is not a normal car. It is built using a carbon fiber monocoque structure, meaning the entire body is one strong central shell. This design makes the car extremely strong and lightweight, but also very difficult to repair after damage. According to Bugatti, only specialized factories with advanced tools and equipment could safely separate and rebuild such a structure. They claim that attempting this process in a normal workshop would be too dangerous. However, Mat and his team decided to proceed anyway, using a simple workshop setup. They carefully prepare to separate the front and rear sections of car. Instead of expensive factory machines, they use basic tools, lifting equipment, and even improvised supports. One of the most surprising moments was when a simple plastic rolling bin from a hardware store was used to help support part of the car during the separation process. Slowly and carefully, the team began removing bolts and disconnecting systems that held the car together. These included coolant lines, electrical wiring, brake systems, and the massive drivetrain components. Every step had to be done carefully because one mistake could destroy the project. Eventually, the two halves of Bugatti were successfully separated. This moment was shocking for many viewers online because it showed a $4 million hypercar being split apart in a basic workshop environment. It challenged the belief that only manufacturers can handle such complex machines. Once the car was open, the internal damage became more visible. The engine mount, which Bugatti said could not be repaired, was broken. Coolant lines were crushed, and parts of the drivetrain were misaligned due to the impact. Despite this, Mat believed the damage could be fixed using modern fabrication techniques. He took the broken engine mount to a local machinist named Bob. Instead of replacing the part with a factory version, Bob examined the metal and decided to repair it. Using controlled heating and precise welding techniques, he restored the damaged bracket and even reinforced it to make it stronger than before. This moment became a turning point in the rebuild, proving that skilled craftsmanship could sometimes replace expensive factory systems. At the same time, another discovery added more tension to the story. Many of the Bugatti's internal components were not unique to the brand. Some parts shared numbers with Volkswagen Group vehicles, meaning they were also used in much cheaper cars. This raised questions about why such expensive repair costs existed if similar parts were available elsewhere in the automotive world. As the rebuild continued, the project started gaining attention online. People were fascinated by the idea of a YouTuber rebuilding one of the most expensive cars in the world without factory support. However, the situation also became more controversial. Bugatti's position remained firm. They believed that safety was the most important factor, especially for a car capable of speeds above 260 miles per hour. They argued that after a serious crash, internal damage could exist even if it was not visible, and only factory inspections could guarantee safety. On the other hand, Mat and his supporters believed that skilled engineers could still repair the vehicles safely using modern tools and careful inspection. This created a strong debate between safety control and independent repair rights. As the project progressed, more creative solutions were needed. Since Bugatti refused to supply parts for a blacklisted VIN, Mat and his team had to find alternatives. Some parts were sourced within the Volkswagen Group, while others were manufactured or rebuilt using 3D scanning and CAD modeling. One of the most important upgrades was a custom exhaust system designed specifically for the car. The original Bugatti exhaust was extremely quiet due to its turbocharged design, but the new system was created to produce a more aggressive sound while still maintaining functionality. This modification showed how the rebuild was not just about restoring the car, but also improving and customizing it. As more updates were shared online, public interest grew rapidly. Millions of people watched the progress, and opinions became divided. Some believed Mat was proving that manufacturers overcomplicate repairs to maintain control and pricing power. Others believed he was taking unnecessary risks with a machine that required extreme precision. Meanwhile, the emotional tension in the story also grew. The car was slowly coming back together, but every step carried uncertainty. Would it actually run again? Would the repaired parts hold under pressure? These questions kept viewers engaged as the rebuild moved closer to completion. One of the most critical moments in the entire project came when the team began reassembling the Bugatti. The front and rear sections of the carbon fiber structure had to be aligned perfectly. Even a tiny mistake could cause serious performance or safety issues. The repaired engine mount played a central role in this process. If it failed, the entire drivetrain alignment would collapse. After careful installation, the team reconnected the major systems, including wiring, hydraulics, coolant lines, and drivetrain components. Each bolt had to be tightened with precision, especially the titanium fasteners that held the structure together. During this process, one bolt snapped due to incorrect torque, showing how delicate the rebuild really was. It was replaced quickly, but it reminded everyone that even small mistakes could have big consequences. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. The engine, a massive W16 unit, had not run since the crash. With all systems connected, fluids filled, and checks completed, the team prepared to start it. When the key was turned, the engine fired up successfully. This was a major breakthrough. The rebuilt systems worked, and the car was able to move under its own power for the first time since the accident. There were still minor issues, including a small fuel leak that was quickly fixed, but overall the result was a success. The reaction online was massive. Millions of viewers watched the progress, and discussions exploded across social media. Some praised the engineering skill and determination behind the rebuild. Others criticized the risks and questioned whether such a repair should have been attempted outside a factory environment. At the same time, industry experts began discussing the implications of the project. The use of 3D printing, CAD modeling, and independent machining showed how modern repair methods were evolving. It demonstrated that even highly complex machines could potentially be repaired outside traditional systems if enough skill and technology were available as the story came to an end. It became clear that this was not just about one car. The Bugatti rebuild raised deeper questions about ownership, control, and the future of automotive repair. On one side, manufacturers like Bugatti argued that strict control over parts and repairs was necessary to maintain safety and protect engineering standards. On the other side, builders and enthusiasts argued that once a person buys a car, they should have full freedom to repair and modify it as they choose. This conflict became known as part of the right to repair debate. It is not limited to cars, but also exists in electronics, farming equipment, and many other industries. The Bugatti situation simply made it more visible because of the extreme value and complexity of the vehicle involved. Another important aspect was the impact on value and collectability. Some argued that rebuilding a crashed hypercar outside factory conditions could reduce its long-term value, especially since it would no longer be factory certified. Others believed that saving and restoring such a rare machine was more important than preserving its original damaged state. In the end, the rebuilt Bugatti stood as a symbol of both innovation and controversy. It showed what modern tools like 3D printing and digital scanning could achieve, but it also highlighted the limits of independent repair when dealing with extreme engineering. Most importantly, it left behind a question that still does not have a clear answer. If you spend millions of dollars on a machine, where does ownership truly end and manufacturer control begin? That question is what makes this story so powerful, and why it continues to be discussed long after the rebuild itself, as the rebuild of the Bugatti continued moving forward. The project slowly shifted from being just a repair job into something much bigger and more symbolic. It was no longer only about fixing a damaged supercar. It had become a real-world test of modern engineering limits and the power balance between manufacturers and owners. Every stage of the process revealed something new, not just about the car itself, but about how the entire automotive industry works behind the scenes. The deeper Mat and his team went into the rebuild, the more they discovered how many parts of Bugatti were not as exclusive as people assumed. Many components inside the car share their origin with the wider Volkswagen group. This included sensors, wiring systems, and even mechanical parts that could be found in far cheaper vehicles. This discovery did not reduce the performance or value of the Bugatti in any way, but it did challenge the idea that every single part of a hypercar is completely unique and irreplaceable. Instead, it showed that even the most advanced machines in the world are still built using shared engineering platforms and industrial supply chains. However, what made Bugatti different was not just the parts themselves, but how they controlled access to them. By limiting who could order and install official components, the company created a system where repairs were tightly controlled. This meant that even if a part physically existed in the world, it might still be unavailable to an independent builder working outside the official network. This restriction added pressure to rebuild, forcing Mat and his team to rely heavily on creativity, problem-solving, and engineering adaptation. They were not just repairing a car anymore. They were navigating a system designed to prevent exactly this kind of independent repair from happening. Despite these challenges, progress continued step by step. The damaged structure was stabilized, the repaired engine mount was holding, and key systems were slowly being restored. Each small success added confidence to the project, proving that the rebuild was not only possible but sustainable if handled carefully. At the same time, the online audience continued to grow, with millions of viewers following every update. The project had now become entertainment, engineering education, and controversy all at once. People were no longer just watching a car being repaired. They were watching a challenge to one of the most exclusive brands in the world unfold in real time. This combination of technical detail and real-world conflict is what made the story so compelling, because it blended emotion, curiosity, and debate into a single ongoing narrative. As the Bugatti neared the final stages of reconstruction, attention shifted toward what would happen after the rebuild was complete. Even if the car could be made to run again, there were still major questions that could not be ignored. One of the biggest concerns was safety. Bugatti's official position remained unchanged. They believed that after a high-impact crash, a carbon fiber monocoque chassis could contain internal damage that is not visible to the eye. Even if the structure looked perfect from the outside, microscopic cracks or hidden stress points could still exist inside the material. These issues could potentially become dangerous at high speeds, especially in a car capable of exceeding 260 miles per hour. From their perspective, only factory-level equipment and inspection processes could guarantee that the chassis was truly safe to use again. On the other side of the debate, Mat and his supporters believe that modern tools like 3D scanning, digital modeling, and precision engineering could detect and correct many of these issues without needing factory intervention. They argue that skilled engineers and independent workshops should not be excluded from repairing advanced machines simply because they were not part of the manufacturer's official system. This disagreement highlighted a much larger global issue known as the right to repair movement. This movement is based on the idea that once a person legally owns a product, they should also have the freedom to repair it using any qualified tools or methods they choose. While this idea is widely supported in many industries, it becomes more complex when applied to high-performance machines like hypercars, where safety risks are extremely high. As discussions continued online, the Bugatti rebuild became a reference point in this debate. Supporters of independent repair use it as proof that complex machines could be restored outside factory systems. Critics use it as an example of why strict manufacturer control might still be necessary. Meanwhile, the car itself was slowly coming back to life. The engine had already started, systems were responding, and the structure was holding together under basic conditions. However, full testing had not yet been completed. The car had not been driven at high speed, and many finishing details still remained. This created a sense of uncertainty around the final outcome. Would the rebuild truly stand up to real-world performance demands, or would hidden issues appear later under pressure? This question remained unanswered, keeping the project's future open-ended even as progress continued. By the time the rebuild reached its later stages, the Bugatti project had grown far beyond its original purpose. It was no longer just about restoring a damaged vehicle. It had become a symbol of a changing automotive world. Technology had advanced to a point where tools like 3D scanning, C80 design, and precision machining allowed independent builders to replicate and repair parts that once required factory-only equipment. This shift meant that the traditional boundaries between manufacturers and independent workshops were becoming less clear. At the same time, manufacturers like Bugatti continued to emphasize control, exclusivity, and safety standards. They argued that hypercars are not ordinary vehicles and should not be treated like standard repair projects. Their concern was not only about protecting brand value, but also about ensuring that vehicles capable of extreme performance remain safe under all conditions. This created a natural tension between innovation and control.